Secretary Lutnik, as I said in my opening statement, you led people to believe that you had cut off all contact with Jeffrey Epstein after the 2005 encounter you and your wife had in his apartment. But as I'm sure you know, the Epstein files show a very different record of interaction. Why do the Epstein files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012?
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to be here to make it clear that I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York, right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall, 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him, and then a year and a half after that, I met him, and never again. Probably the total, and you've seen all of these documents, of these millions and millions of documents, there may be 10 emails connecting me with him, probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person. Okay?
Secretary Lutnik.
So the thing is that he's not answering the question, Jen, is he? And the question is, why did he lie about his association with Jeffrey Epstein? How are we to trust that what he's saying or anyone in this administration is saying is true?
Well, I think he's a compulsive liar. And what's so disturbing about Howard Lutnik is he and his wife knew that in 2008, I believe it was, that Jeffrey Epstein was a convicted pedophile. And in that 0.001% circle, somebody gets charged in Palm Beach with being a child sex offender. You know the jaws are gabbing about it. And what's so disturbing about this is he and his wife emailed Jeffrey Epstein and said, hey, we're on our yacht. Can we come by your island? We are 2 families. We have 2 sets of kids. And then they give the kids gender and ages to a pedophile. And let's remember that Howard Lutnik had said in 2005, my wife and I were disgusted by him. We were never going to do anything with him ever again. We got a bad feeling. And then 2012, they are inviting themselves to the island for lunch and giving him the details about their children's ages and gender. And I mean, that's just something that kind of settles with you. I'm a mother of 2 kids. I can't imagine emailing a convicted pedophile and saying, hey, we're going to swing by and my kids are this age. It's just, these people are so diabolical. It's hard to put words to describe, but it's so unsettling and it sits inside you, all of the exploitation of these children, and that these people are in the federal government and there's zero accountability for this guy or Trump is just so maddening.
Glenn, he didn't answer the question. And basically, look, let's just be honest. He's a liar.
And Don, he lies because he thinks he can get away with it. And it seems that he probably knows if he gets caught, there will be no accountability in the Trump administration. You know, these are the kind of people Trump has surrounded himself with. These are the kind of people who are drawn to his power. You know, some people will do anything to get that proximity to power and to keep it at all costs. How many times have we seen, you know, some moth, you know, flutter to the flame of Donald Trump only to get burned or ultimately thrown under a bus? But, you know, he has a cabinet full of irredeemable hacks and flunkies. So, you know, this is just more of the same. And, you know, there's a lot in the Epstein files that is infuriating to this old prosecutor that is going completely uninvestigated by Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Todd Blanche. And for gosh sakes, we've got the Epstein files are released by our Department of Justice. And what happens? The UK launches criminal investigations and we do nothing. Crickets from our Department of Justice. Why? Because Bondi and Patel and Blanche play the, you know, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And apparently investigate no evil card. That seems to be their MO. And as a former career DOJ prosecutor, it makes my head explode.
In any other normal time, what would be happening if someone lied, like Howard Lutnik, or they were evasive like Donald Trump? Why isn't Donald Trump being called in like Bill and Hillary Clinton to testify? He's in there more than they are. Well, I don't know if Hillary Clinton's in there at all, but more than Bill Clinton.
Yeah, he's in there 38,000 times. Donald Trump is in these Epstein files 38,000 times. And then the more and more you dig into it, it becomes very apparent that I think us on the left have been tiptoeing into being conspiracy theorists. But to me, it becomes very apparent, in my opinion, that Jeffrey Epstein did not commit suicide. And that now you have an FBI agent. There's a document was released today that scrubbed the hard drive, which is very alarming. And then it just makes me mad, Don, at Merrick Garland's DOJ. Why didn't they investigate Jeffrey Epstein's suicide? They had it for 4 years. Why didn't they investigate it? Democracy's on the line. All these kids were victims of sexual assault by these creepy, rich pedophiles. And both the Democratic DOJ and the Republican DOJ lets them get away with it because they're rich and they're white. And it's so appalling.
Glenn, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I'm not a political guy. I'm a rule of law guy. And when I see that these files sat in the first Trump administration, in the Biden administration, and now in the second Trump administration, and nobody lifted a finger to investigate and protect those young girls who were victimized and abused, it's not about politics. Both parties, for whatever reason, don't have an appetite to hold the ruling class criminals accountable, to hold rich, powerful, connected, influential, often generally white men accountable for these crimes. And I sure hope we can start doing better as a country, because that is as disheartening when it comes to assessing what our high government officials are really all about. That is as upsetting as it gets.
I can't, what you said about, the Biden administration or Merrick Garland and both of you, why they didn't, and especially as someone who is not a Jeffrey Epstein, but who is a survivor of that, where are the victims? And what about the victims, I should say? What about the victims? Because it seems like they are, I'm not sure if that was a reason for the Biden administration. They have been saying they didn't release them, or they didn't make a big deal out of them, or a bigger deal out of them, because Ghislaine Maxwell was being prosecuted and the case was happening while they were there. But I don't know if I buy that. It just looks like covering up for very powerful, rich, dirty old men.
Yeah, and Don, what we know, courtesy of the earlier release of some of the Epstein files, is in email traffic between and among federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office. They were talking with each other about, okay, we have 10 Epstein co-conspirators identified, and they were strategizing about what to do investigatively, how to step to each of the 10. They were talking about subpoenaing them, which is contrary to the way we ordinarily will deal with a co-conspirator. We would rather indict them than subpoena them. I don't want to get off track with a law school class here. But when prosecutors put in writing, in emails, okay, we've got 10 co-conspirators identified, we don't put that in writing. We don't even utter those words unless we have the evidence to back it up. And the careful, experienced prosecutors at the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office knew exactly what they were saying. That email traffic was from 2019 during the first Trump administration. What the hell happened to 10 co-conspirators who were never brought to justice? And that's just for openers when you're dealing with 1,000 young girls who were sex trafficked.
One more thing before I get back to Jen. Glenn, if you were a prosecutor and this was the way that this DOJ had handled it, and you had people handling a situation like this, not releasing the information on time in a haphazard way, and revealing some, really sensitive photographs and names and all of that, what would you do? What would happen?
Oh, we would have a team of FBI agents and experienced federal prosecutors, AUSAs, probably detailed from various offices because of the size of the investigation. We would be digging in, moving heaven and earth to hold folk accountable if we could, in accordance with the evidence, for sex trafficking young girls or being involved in a sex trafficking ring. And how that didn't happen, how you can have all of these girls victimized, and we only prosecuted, that's the royal we, the prosecution, I can't get away from that. The prosecutors only prosecuted one person, Ghislaine Maxwell. They tried to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein until he got suicided, or he turned up dead in his cell, which is beyond curious. But again, Don, I wish I could explain it because, you know, when my team and when my prosecutors that I supervised saw suspected crime, we went at it 100 miles an hour, honestly, ethically, but aggressively, to try to vindicate the rights of victims, hold perpetrators accountable, and protect the people of the United States, specifically the people of Washington, D.C., where I was a prosecutor for decades.
And Jen, with them not being transparent and Howard Lutnik lying and all of them lying and Caroline Leavitt saying, okay, that's it, we're moving on, we're not going to discuss this anymore, no one else, Todd Blanche saying there aren't going to be any more prosecutions, the public is left to we're left to our own devices about what could happen. It's actually, they should just come clean because the public is thinking the worst about Donald Trump and beyond. And if we just got the information, people wouldn't be left to their own devices.
Because we only have half the files, Don. And you know the worst stuff is still with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, and they can't just come clean. I mean, this is a guy who couldn't accept that he lost a free and fair election. So he riled up a bunch of people to go storm the Capitol. And the DOJ, Merrick Garland's DOJ, they only prosecuted low-level assailants. They didn't go after the elite there either. Merrick Garland was late to go after who funded this. Now we know Donald Trump funded the insurrection by the tune of $3 million. We know the wife of Clarence Thomas, Ginny Thomas, was an organizer. The money and the track down, Jack Smith was on that, but the link between January 6 prosecutions and Jeffrey Epstein prosecutions is the elite act with impunity. And this is a problem with both Democratic DOJs and Republican DOJs. Rich people get a different set of rules. And Trump and his sycophants are governing as though they will never be held accountable. And I am so proud of the Congress people that keep pushing and fighting for these victims. I'm so proud of the victims and their bravery, because this needs to be put into the light. This needs to be completely exposed, a la Catholic Church style.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.